Hello everyone, this is Abdelaziz Aittarbali, a teacher from Chefchaouen delegation. Welcome to our English classes. Right, concerning today, we're going to have a lesson about the conditional type 2. Right, so concerning the conditional type 2, as you can see here, I'm asking you to study the following examples. Let's have a look at the first one here. We have here, if I had money, I would buy a new computer. When you read this sentence, what are your ideas? What did you understand from it? The person who said this sentence, if I had money, it means that I'm poor. I don't have any money, right? Which means in reality, this is it here. This is the real situation. Right. Let's have a look at the other side here. So, I can't buy a new computer, which is the result. So as you can see here, we have two parts. The first part, in which we have the real situation, and the second part, in which we have the result of this situation. So which means the person who said this sentence, he doesn't have really enough money to buy a new computer. Right. Let's consider the second example here. Right. Okay. We have here, if Mary didn't study hard, she wouldn't get better results. So, can you guess the meaning of this sentence? Right, okay. So, if Mary didn't study hard, she wouldn't get better result. In your opinion, what do you think this person here, Mary, did she really get better result? Did she really study hard? So, let's have a look here. If Mary didn't study hard, but Mary is a good student, which means she studied hard. This is the real situation. And then the outcome or the result is that she was able to get better result, which means she was good student. She got good result, right? Which means this is the outcome and this is the result of this sentence, as you can see here. Right. So, what you should bear in mind is the fact that, if we have concerning the conditional type 2, we have two parts. The first part is mainly about the real, an imaginary situation, and the second one is about the result, which is, of course, the result which is expected. We're going to see and we're going to study all these things amply in the coming one. So let's move on now to the next example. We have here this one. If I were you, I would work harder. What does it mean, this sentence? It means that I'm not you, right? Which means this is the real situation, right? So, this is just a piece of advice, and it could help you in the future. Which means here, if I were you, means if I were in your position. For example, if you have a problem and you don't have a solution for that, I'm there to help you and give you a piece of advice, and this advice, you may take it and it may help you in the future so as not to have the same problem in the future. Right. Now, this is the question here. We have an important question. How do we form conditional type 2? When you study both examples that we have seen, the first one, if I had money, I would buy a new computer. just focus on the verbs that you've got here. The first one, which is written in red. Okay, so had. Let's have a look at the second one. Would buy. Sentence number 2. If Mary didn't study hard, she wouldn't get better results. What is the verb here? That's it, it's verb study. But be careful, what do we have before study? We have didn't. Right. Let's have a look at the second part. After the comma, we have here get. So get, we have before it, we have wouldn't. So now it's up to you to tell me the rule or how do we form the conditional type 2. So without delay, let's have a look at it. So as you can see, we have here if is followed by a subject. Then we have the verb which is conjugated in the simple past. So as you can see here, we have if, here it is. We have had, which is the simple past of the verb, and before it, of course, we have the subject. Then, as you can see here, we have a comma. Now, this is the first part of our the rule of reported, or I mean of conditional type 2. Let's have a look at the second one, which is here we have, as you can see, we have here the subject, which is followed by would, right? And we have here by, which is a verb in the infinitive form. So as you can see here, this is the rule of it. Let's repeat it again together. We have if plus subject plus simple past, comma, subject plus would plus verb in the infinitive. And as you can see here, in the first example, we have the verb is in the affirmative form. Let's have a look at the second one. We have here, if Mary didn't study hard. We have here the verb is in the negative form, right? Which means, concerning conditional type 2, it may have affirmative and it may have negative form. So we have to master the rule of the simple past, be it in the affirmative or in the negative form. Then again, we have here the verb, and do not forget the comma, which divides the both sentences. We go now to the second one, which is here, which starts from the subject. Then we have here wouldn't, again, as we have seen here, the negative form is didn't, and then we have would, which is the affirmative. It may become negative as well. So it depends on the context or on the sentence or the meaning that you want to give us, right? So, and it's followed here by the verb in the infinitive form. So, bear in mind that in both verbs, be it when they are in the negative form, are both, as you can see here, are both in the infinitive form. Right. Right, okay. So, again here, as you can see, this is the rule of the conditional type 2. Now we're going to move on. Okay. Now, of course, here we should bear in mind that sometimes it's possible that to use could or might in place of would, which means we can, I'll give you examples about that. For example, this one here, let's consider this example. If I had more free time, comma, I could travel around the world, which means we can use could or we can use would as well, which means we don't have a fixed rule. We can use, both ways are correct. We can use I could travel around the world or I would travel around the world. The same thing can be applied here. As you can see, we have here might. Might means it's possible, which means it's possible to buy a large, it was possible to buy a larger house if we had enough money. So let's just compare these two sentences here and just let's focus on the position of if. So in the first sentence, if is in the beginning of the sentence, while in the second sentence, it's in the middle, right? All right, but we can, do both ways. For example, if I had more free time, I could travel around the world. Can you guess? Can you do it the other way? Yes, that's it. We can say I could travel around the world if I had more free time, or in the second sentence, we can start with the if clause here. That's it. We can say if we had enough money, we might buy a larger house. Right, so to recapitulate, this is what you have to bear in mind. You have to respect the rule. Just remind me again of the rule. Yes, that's it. We have here if plus the verb is in the past, right? And don't forget here the comma. Then the second one we have here I. What is new now is that we can use would or could or might, right? So it depends on the context or on the situation you'd like to express. Okay, right. Now we move on. Now, right, this is the most important, most interesting point in our lesson. Now that you have an idea about the rule, which is if plus subject plus the simple past, comma, plus the subject plus would or could or might plus verb in the infinitive. Now that's fine. Now everything is clear now in terms of the rule. Now what is important now is about the uses of conditional type 2. When do we use conditional type 2? Because you studied conditional type 0, conditional type 1, and now it's conditional type 2. And I'll let you know, I'll give you some time to guess because I'm going to give you some options and you're going to decide which ones are correct. We have the first one. We use conditional type 2 with possible situation in the present. If it's correct, you say correct. If it's not, you say no, it's incorrect. So we have possible situation in the present or dreams and imaginary situations or scientific facts and general truths. Number 4, to give advice. Number 5, things that are unlikely to happen, which means they may happen, maybe yes, maybe no, maybe it's something which is difficult to happen, maybe it's impossible, right? So I give you some time to write either if it's correct or if it's incorrect. For example, the first one, possible situations in the present. Of course not. We don't use conditional type 2 to talk about possible situations in the present because I remind you again of the rule, if plus subject plus the simple past. Here, no, it's not correct. So we don't use this one in the conditional type 2. So I give you some time to finish the task or then we meet to continue our lesson. All right then. So what's your answer concerning number 2, concerning dreams and imaginary situations? Bear in mind the first example. If I had money, I would buy a new house. So what's that? It's just something like a dream, which means yes, we use conditional type 2 when we talk about dreams, imaginary situations, and of course when we have something that we would like to achieve in the it was our dream and we dream about it. It's an imaginary situation. What about scientific facts and general truths? Scientific facts means something which is scientific proved. For example, concerning water, when it turns into ice, right? Or when we have general truths, for example, the sun sets from in places and things like that. So, concerning scientific facts, what do you think? Is it correct or incorrect? That's it. It's incorrect. Right. What about giving advice? Bear in mind the third example that we have just seen. If I were you, I would get good results. So here it's in the form of advice, which means yes, it's correct. We use conditional type 2 to give advice to someone using different expressions like if I were you, if I were in your place, if I were in your shoes, and things like that. What about things that are likely to happen, which means, right, it's something which is difficult to happen and may not happen in the past, which means, yes, it's correct. We use conditional type 2 for things that are unlikely to happen. So let's recapitulate then. We use conditional type 2 to talk about dreams and imaginary situations. Or we use it to give advice. And of course, we use that for things that are unlikely to happen, which means, I explain it again, things that are difficult or hard to do. They are just something which is difficult for you to do in the past because what's done is done, right? So these are some uses of conditional type 2, right? So now it's practice time. Okay, so we have here a question. Put the verbs between brackets in the correct tense. We are going to have here an exercise in order to check if you understood or not. So I'm going to give you some sentences here. The first one, we have here if it, we have here verb to rain, we get wet. I remind you again, concerning the rule of conditional type 2, we have if plus subject plus simple present, or simple past, sorry, comma, plus subject plus would or could or might plus the infinitive of the verb, right? So this is the first example. We have here if it to rain, we have verb number 1 is rain, and be careful concerning the if clause here. Then we have a comma, and the second one is verb get. This is example number 1. Number 2, I to give up smoking, if I to be you. Number 3, Karim to buy a sports car if he to have money. Number 4, if we not revise our lessons, and be careful here because we're talking here about the negative form, we not to get good results. So I give you 2 minutes to answer these questions, right? And you have to bear in mind the rule of conditional type 2. So I let you for 2 minutes to do that. All right then, so what did you do in the first one? If it to rain, we get wet. Which one are you going to conjugate into the simple past? Yeah, that's it. It's verb to rain, which means if it. Right, okay. I forgot here the fifth one here, fifth example. We have if I to live in the USA, I to speak English fluently. So let's go back to the answer, the first one. Yeah, that's it. This is the one we change into the past simple. So as you can see, we have if plus subject plus the simple past. Now we are applying the rule here. We have the comma, we have subject plus we have here would and the verb in the infinitive form. What about number 2? Right? You have to bear in mind the position of if here. So, that's it. So, you can say, I would give up smoking, that's it, if I were you. So, as you can see here, which function, I mean, what is the use of conditional type 2 in this situation? That's it. It's used here to give advice to someone. For example, I would give up, which means I would stop smoking if I were you. If I were in position, I would stop smoking because, you know, smoking is bad for health. Number 3, we have Karim to buy a sports car. We have this one here. We have if to have money. So, that's it. We have Karim would buy a sports car if he had money. That's the correct answer, of course, because as you can see here, we applied the rule. Here, if is in the middle of the sentence. Let's go now to number 4, the fourth sentence. And be careful, as I told you, because here we have the negative form. We have if we didn't revise our lessons, that's correct, we wouldn't get good results, which means here we have conjugated the verb into the negative form in the simple past, and the same thing here we have not, here becomes wouldn't, as you can see. The last example, which I forgot in the beginning, which is if I to live in the USA, I to speak English fluently. Of course, to speak English fluently is a dream for everyone, and to live in the USA is another imaginary thing, but it may happen, why not? So, here we have if I live, that's it, in the USA, I would speak English fluently, Right. So, from all what we have seen here, you have to know that the conditional type 2, the rule of it, we have to bear in mind this one. We have the if here, plus the verb in the simple past. Then we have here would and get, which must be in the infinitive form. Right? All right then. That's all for now. Thank you for your attention. And please, for more lessons, follow us on this website here, which is www.soutien.gov.ma. Thank you for your attention and see you in another lesson. Good luck.